Hi everyone. Today is a yin practice with the intention of birthing our creativity. So we'll be focusing a lot on the area, our sacral chakras called Svadhisthana chakra, and bringing our attention to that area that is associated with creativity and passion, and working on the energy in that area. Begin to set any props up you might need. So I always encourage, if you have a couple of yoga blocks that you might want to rely on those. Of course, yin can be practiced without props as well. So you decide if you typically use props, and please bring those props in. And if you don't, then no need. Okay, I'll see you on the mat. So I invite you to begin today in whatever position is comfortable for you seated. So I'm going to sit in Vajrasana because it's focusing on the area of my hips, and I'm allowing my sitting bones to draw down between my heels. You may very well wish to sit cross-legged. Once you've found the seat that you can be comfortable in for approximately 5 minutes, I'll invite you to close your eyes. Of course, at any time, if closing your eyes causes any anxiety or discomfort, then just let your eyes be downturned and just gazing down through the slit of your eyes. I want the spine to feel elegant, feeling your pelvis in a neutral position, or just the sitting bones slightly tilting forward so you have that natural curvature in your low back, so you're not dumping or rounding into the low back. We want the heart to feel open and explosive, and as we allow it to be open, it even physically epitomizes that idea of abundance, right? And when we close off, it has that feeling of sadness and depletion. So feeling abundant with your heart open. And start to come into whatever your breath is showing you right now. Where do you feel that breath in your body? It could very well be up here near your collarbones. Just notice without change. It will begin to naturally calm itself down, or we can help it start to smooth out and maximize its ability. Maybe your breath tends to be more in the area of your ribs. Maybe it tends to be in the lower part of your lungs, allowing your belly to expand. So as you turn towards whatever the breath is showing you right now, inviting you to begin to just manipulate that a little bit so we can ensure that we are maximizing our ability to breathe fully and completely without strain or effort. You need to feel the air coming in through the nose, like you're drinking it in through both nostrils simultaneously. Feel that travel all the way down. As it travels down to the base of the lungs, the diaphragm drops. The diaphragm is a muscle. As the diaphragm drops, we make room for the lungs to expand. And on the exhalation, the diaphragm pushes up, and that air pushes up and out of the body, exiting through your nose. You can give a little extra squeeze at the end there to make sure you've emptied completely. And then beginning the process again with observation, inhaling through the nose, drinking that all the way in and down so the base of the lungs expand, the ribs expand, the chest lightly lifts without lifting the shoulders up, very relaxed, conscious breathing. And then you watch the air as it leaves the body, leaving out through the nose, through the collarbones, through the ribs, and the belly pulls in and up to end that out breath. emptying the lungs to make room for new energy and oxygen. Be conscious of the shoulders not rising and falling, keeping them nice and relaxed. The chin approximately parallel to the ground. Almost feels as if the back of the head is lengthening upwards. And the jaw is relaxed. So beginning this practice by turning inwards towards the breath, stabilizing here. Yin is a very meditative type of practice. You'll be invited to observe your breath through the remainder of this practice. And if it starts to feel as if it's short and choppy, or that you're holding the breath, know that you can regulate it with awareness. And trust that the breath will take care of you. And that breath bringing in healing prana. So the breath is a vehicle for carrying the energy. All of the universe is energy. There's this constant exchange. We give away what we no longer need, it is recycled, and we bring in that which can benefit us. With your awareness on that breath coming in, begin to visualize that breath as a white light. Feeling that white light enter and radiate into your entire body. Neglecting no part. Feel yourself being bathed in that light, purifying and opening. Now begin to consciously guide that light with a little bit more direction and awareness into the area of your pelvis. Visualize your pelvis like a bowl. And that light is pouring in and filling that bowl. Visualize and see this clearly. And you can continue to utilize this visualization strategy through all of the postures that we'll be bringing our bodies into. So although we're moving our bodies to facilitate a particular shape, there's something more going on with the subtle energy body in each shape. And we can enhance the ability to tap into that subtle energy with the direction of the mind. So knowing that today's practice is to enhance the opening and the abundance in Sacral Chakra, the area of our pelvis, you might be encouraged to direct your mind and the energy into this area in each shape again and again. Begin to come out of your seat. Just bring your hands into tabletop position for a few moments, spreading your fingers wide and ensuring your shoulders are towards the back of the wrist, or maybe the hands even slightly forward of the shoulders. Let's start to find some pelvic rocking. Just allow the tailbone to gently rise. Be careful of the back. Press the floor away with your hands. Make sure you're gripping down slightly through the fingertips and the heel of the hand. And now notice as the tailbone lengthens down, not so much through the entire spine, but just noticing the rocking of your pelvic bowl. And see if you can keep your attention right at the front here, right at the front of your pelvic bowl, as you just gently rock that pelvis. So not a traditional cow and cat where we're doing the whole spine. We're isolating the area of the pelvis, finding a little bit of mobility here. And you might start to feel a vibration, a warmth, maybe even a little bit of excitement in this area as we focus on Svadhisthana chakra, our second major energy center or wheel, associated with creativity and passion. Start to notice whatever you're feeling there. This is something a little more subtle than muscles. Again, often perceived as a vibration, a warmth, a tingling. Not the same tingling as if it's nerves being pinched, not that kind. This is something more subtle, like a hum. And begin to draw your sitting bones back, keeping your attention on the front of your pelvis, that space, and with women kind of below the navel and between your two front hip bones. Begin to draw back. Let's soften the elbows. And if it's available to you and it's comfortable for you, bring your thighs close together so that the belly is draping over the thighs, so that this is all contained. Planting your fists on the ground, stacking your hands, or resting your forehead on the ground if it touches. And please bring your attention back to that single point of focus in the front of your pelvis. And become aware of some particular, maybe it's a task that you're wanting to complete, maybe it's a project that requires some creativity, maybe you're writing a book, maybe you're writing a blog, or just something that you're requiring a little bit of inspiration. And become aware of that. And without trying to solve the problem or make creativity happen, recognize what it is you're identifying and trusting in yourself to release the answers by bringing the attention to the front of the pelvis. The answers may not come right now. I find that they often come when I'm most still in a meditation, not even intending to solve a particular problem. The answers spontaneously reveal themselves. So right now, we're simply creating an opening of the pathways so that the possibility of birthing ideas or creativity can be enhanced. And relaxing your muscles as much as you can while remaining safe and stable. Allowing the breath to continue to ease in and out of the body naturally and fully. Keeping your mind's eye very lightly on the front of your pelvis. A single point of focus is most beneficial. In yin, we traditionally come into our shape. We relax around the shape. And we hold it in a relaxed yet focused way for an extended period of time, so that physically we're accessing the fascia and the tissues can release. And meditatively, we can become still. And the stillness of the body becomes a representation of the stillness of the mind. We'll honor silence for a few moments. Bring your mind's eye back to the front of your pelvis, keeping it there as you release your hands. Press into the floor and inhale, come up. Keep your attention on the front of the pelvis in and through the transitions. Begin to slowly walk your hands forward, lower down onto your forearms, and keep those knees positioned right below your hips. So we're not leaning back anymore, we're simply drawing forward. Keeping the knees approximately hip distance apart and the attention on the front of the pelvis, begin to drop your chest down towards the ground into melting heart. Often this is done with a focus on the heart center. We're keeping the attention on that pelvis rising to the sky. And notice any sensations you're feeling here in that area often associated with birthing. I apologize if you're male and watching this. You can birth ideas without having the ability to birth a child. But those of you that are females and you're practicing can use that imagery of birthing ideas. And isn't it interesting that birth is in that area, and this is also the area that we associate with passion and creativity and original ideas coming forward. You can stack your hands just as I am. If you're safe to do so, you may extend your arms and bring your chest right to the floor. Although today I'd rather that not be the focus. I'd rather it not be on the shoulders, but that you keep the attention on the pelvis. And so I'm going to choose to stack my hands and take the shoulders out of the equation for the most part. Notice any temperature changes or any experience that is occurring in the pelvis. Sometimes when our energy centers are blocked, it kind of feels numb. And then as they start to become aroused, they can sometimes feel like there's a bit of pressure. And then when the energy is flowing more fluidly, it can feel quite light and energized and energetic. So just noticing what you notice. And it may be that this area is blocked, and that might feel a little bit like a pressure or a numbness. Be patient and trust that
all birthing of new ideas, excuse me, all birthing of ideas or new moments happen when it's time for them to happen. We can gently encourage and infuse. If this feels like too much pressure on your low back, of course, come up. You can always perform any pose in your mind's eye to receive effects if you can't come into the physical shape. Honoring silence for a few moments. If the mind wanders away, gently guide it back, remembering the more focused your intention is without creating tension, the more effective the energy will flow. Keeping your attention on the front of the pelvis. And to press into your hands. Inhale, come up. Tucking your toes under will start to come into a squat. So if you need blocks, this might be the opportune time to grab them. When we come into squat, I'll show you from the side, we bring the soles of the feet to the ground. Walk your feet out wider than your hips. Descending your sitting bones down, bringing the arms into the inner edges of the thighs. And instead of collapsing forward, elevating your chest. Now, if your heels are off the ground here, I really encourage you to roll up your mat and place your heels on them so that they're supported. You may even put your sitting bones on blocks. So this is an option, propping yourself with blocks underneath your base is an option. And if you're rolling into the arches of the feet, please add an external rotation to the hips. You'll notice some freedom that happens there in the sacral area. Spreading the toes on the ground. You can place your hands at your heart, or even just let them gently rest down or on the floor if that's effective. Keep your attention right in the front of your pelvis. There's something called yoni mudra, which is associated with that area, and it looks like this. So this is yoni mudra, and you can even bring your hands into this particular position to aid in that connection to the energy of the sacral area, this pelvic area. The sacrum, of course, is at the back of the pelvis. Hence where the terminology comes. We want to focus a little bit more through the front. And the yoni mudra is meant to symbolize a woman's womb or feminine parts, the idea of birthing. The chest stays open here. The breath is consistently fluid, drawing that light and energy into the pelvic area, that bowl. And honoring a few moments here of silence. Knowing that energy is always at play. And we simply can help direct it with our practice. And this can be a challenging pose. We're not holding it too much longer. As you come out of the pose, keeping your attention at the front of the pelvis, maybe placing your hands on the floor, leaning forward. We'll actually just come up for a moment, taking the creases out of our legs. Bring your feet towards hip distance apart, engaging your abdomen as you come up. And standing with your feet hip distance apart, taking your gaze inward. Just close your eyes for a moment. Keeping the awareness on the pelvic area, that bowl that is filled and overflowing with light. It's like any sense of depletion that may have been there is being addressed. Inhale, let your arms reach above your head. Taking your left wrist, leaning over to the right for a moment. Keep your attention right here on the area of your pelvis. Where your attention goes, the energy will flow. Inhale, come up. Exhale over to the other side. Take opposite wrist. Inhale, coming up. And exhale, begin to slowly dive forward. Use your abdominals, folding forward. And bring your bellies right down onto the ground. So as you're bringing your belly down onto the ground, you might even like to place a blanket through the front of your pelvis. We'll let the feet come approximately bony hip distance apart, which is the front of your bones here, that little bony part. And for a moment, just let your head rest on your hands. Take your toes and point them out. Maybe starting to walk your feet even wider than your pelvis to allow this to take place. So the inner edges of your feet point down to the ground as the toes point away, so you're in a strong external rotation here. Notice if your back feels receptive to this. If it doesn't, narrow your feet, maybe bring the toes to point back and engage your glutes a little more. But otherwise, keep the toes pointing out and bring your attention, your focus back to the front of your pelvis. This posture that we'll come into fully is crocodile pose, associated with the element of water, which is the element associated with Svadhisthana, the chakra with which we're working. Let's take one hand on the opposite shoulder and then rest your chin on your wrists. Walk your elbows out. Your low back is in a little bit of a compression here, but we never want pain. If you're experiencing pain, engage your glutes a little bit more, or narrow your feet, as I mentioned, with the toes pointing back. Either way, bring that internal eye to the front of your pelvis here. Not only is it being bathed in the light coming in through the prana of the breath, but also directly being aroused with the energy of the earth. If this is too much for the neck, rest your forehead instead on your wrists. And see if you can relax the corresponding muscles without causing any pain in your back or your neck. And we'll honor silence as we keep the attention very lightly on the front of the pelvis. Just a few more moments here. Keeping the attention on the front of the pelvis. Bring your toes to point them back towards the end of the mat. Release your hands. Place them under the shoulders. And as you inhale, press up. And as you exhale, draw yourselves back to child's pose. This time, maybe the knees are wide, letting your pelvis as if it's pouring out in between the space of your thighs, pouring out, and not to release that light that you've accumulated. There's lots of that to go around. The idea that it's opening up, the front of the pelvis is now opening in representation of opening to ideas and opening to whatever it is you need to receive. Just for a few moments here, keeping the attention on the front of the pelvis. I invite you to come over onto your backs. As you come onto your back, plant your feet on the floor for a moment. Release your palms to face up. The feet are approximately hip distance apart. Walk your shoulder blades under so they're nice and flat on the ground so you're not resting and collapsing the chest. So nice and broad expanse across the shoulder blades on the earth so the palms can rotate open. It's allowing for the neutrality of the pelvis here for a few breaths. Keep your attention right here on that space below the navel, above the pubic bone, in the area of Svadhisthana chakra. Now place your hands here, taking that position of Yoni Mudra again. So the fingertips point down towards your pubic bone and the thumbs encircle that space. So it's this area. So taking that hand mudra and just placing it on the pelvic area. And see if you can notice an enhancement of the energy. Noticing a warmth. A revitalization of this area since the beginning. Keep your attention there as you walk the soles of your feet together and allow your knees to open up wide. can use pillows or blocks on the outer edges of your knees if this is too great of a strain. And you don't need to manufacture creative ideas. They will come on their own. We're simply enhancing the possibility, removing any blockages. Continue focusing on the area in the front of your pelvis, maximizing potential. Trusting the inner goddess. That is within each and every one of us. We all have both masculine and feminine energy. Even in the area of Svadhisthana, there's a masculine and a feminine, a yin and a yang. These polarities that we're balancing. Keeping the attention focused on the area of your pelvis. Specifically in the placement of your hands. Closing your eyes if possible. Relaxing the jaw. Trusting. Keeping the attention there as you release your hands. Allow your palms to face open. Release your left foot to the corner of the mat, and then your right. Pause for a few moments. Noticing any sense of arousal or alivening in your sacral area. That sacred area. And one more movement before I guide you through relaxation. Please bend your knees. Let your feet be at least hip width, perhaps shoulder width apart. Take your arms slightly wider. Keeping your attention on that sacred area. Begin to slowly let your knees come to one side, to that first place of resistance that you're experiencing. A couple of breaths here. Drawing those knees back to center very slowly. Keep that single point of focus there, right at the center. Let the knees come to the other side. Pause for a few breaths. Coming back to center, single point of focus. Allow your knees once again to drape over to the left. If it's appropriate for you to stack your knees, then do so. Keep your attention on your sacred area. Keeping your attention there. Begin to draw your knees back to center. Separate your feet at least hip distance, if not wider. Feel into the area of birthing. There's an element of trust that comes with this. Begin to allow your knees to come over to the other side as you roll to the other edges of your feet. The left glute, of course, is off the floor. Keep your attention at single point of focus. Again, just above the pubic bone and below the navel. Maybe you're able to hone in on that location a little bit easier now that we're towards the end of the practice and that area has been aroused and enlivened. The option to stack your knees. No force, you're not pulling those knees down. Yin has an element of relaxing into the shape, not holding or forcing. It's like when we try to force, it's like trying to swim against the current. It's so much more easeful to swim with the current. This is true for the universal flow of energy. That phrase, going with the flow, going with the current. Can you perceive a current of energy in Svadhisthana, the sacral chakra? Like it has been plugged in, illuminated, and aroused. Keeping your attention here, begin to draw those knees back to center. Walk your feet out towards the edges of the mat, finding an internal rotation of your thighs. Let those knees drop in towards each other. Single point of focus. It's even like our legs and our pelvis are taking that shape of Yoni Mudra, that triangular shape. Perceive this downward pointing triangular shape. So that when those ideas are ready, they will come forth like an arrow, pointing the way. Let your knees separate and prepare for final relaxation. Lengthen your feet to the corners of the mat. Spread them wide. Ensure that your shoulder blades are nice and flush along the floor. Grab any blankets that may be helpful, not only for your body, but even to drape across your pelvis here. I don't have one handy, but that weight and that area of cocooning this area of your body can be deeply beneficial in this pose, or alternately placing your hands. The heat, it's almost like ideas are percolating and cooking. Like you've drawn all of the ingredients together, just like baking a cake. You can't rush the process. You simply add the ingredients. You mix them together. You can't rush the process of making a cake. It has to cook. So allowing the heat of your pelvis to be representative of these ideas. Cooking, preparing for the final product. Finishing with a poem by Dana Faulds. The Goddess of the Night. The Goddess of the Night speaks only in a quiet voice. Trust the movement of energy, she says. Trust the opening of blossoms. Trust the wisdom that rises through you like sap flows through trees in spring. Trust that you can leave that which you no longer need. Trust the coming of new insight. The goddess pushes the cloud hair from her eyes and offers you a cup. This is the chalice of life, the chalice of change and choice. Drink deeply, she says. Do not second guess yourself. The only answers worth listening to are those that come from deep within. And as the last stars fade from the sky, she speaks to us a final time. Trust your own immortal soul. Trust what you know and what you don't. Trust that you can do what is yours to do. Trust life to bring you face to face with truth. Begin to find movement in your body, starting with the smaller muscles, fingers, toes, wrists, and ankles. Draw your legs closer together. Use some abdominal contraction to be safe. Reach your arms above your head. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, draw the left knee into the chest. Plant that foot on the ground. Inhale long. And draw the right knee into the chest. or release that down. You can keep your attention on the front of your pelvis as you roll over onto one side and help yourself up to seated. And as you take your comfortable seat, closing your eyes once again, let's place our hands at our heart center in Anjali Mudra. Chest uplifted. Noticing the effects of the practice on your whole being. And then place your hands again in Yoni Mudra below the navel. Notice what you perceive. This mudra and seated can be a meditation all on its own. So you might find that you know that this is an area that you'd like to enhance the idea of creativity. You can simply use this mudra for meditation. So perhaps you'll take some time at the end of this practice to meditate with this mudra. I must go, and so I bid you goodbye for now. I thank you for practicing with me. I always appreciate any comments. And if you haven't subscribed, please hit subscribe now so that we can find each other again. Thank you for your practice. May you be well, and may you explore enhanced access to creativity, inner passion, and your inner goddess. Thank you.